This comment says, as a dog trainer, I'm dealing with a lot of trainer guilt since I've come across your videos. Thank you so much for your content. You're a true gem. I wanted to use this comment kind of as just an opportunity to empathize. I entered the dog training world through balance training, through a particular type of balance training called leadership training, where we weren't using e-collars and prong collars, but we were using like leash corrections. And although like we preached that, you know, dominance theory wasn't real, no such thing as an alpha, the philosophies, although saying that we didn't believe that, were very much lined up with that thinking, very rooted in that thinking. And there is a lot of misogyny and ableism wrapped up in that type of approach. And we were at a point in our own healing journey where we still had a lot to unpack. And so when things like respect and leadership were sort of weaponized to back up this philosophy, and when ableist concepts came into play in terms of, you know, blaming people's anxiety for their dog's behavior concern, or blaming their body posture or their tone or their tendency to comfort their dog, that all just made sense to us. It sounded true. It was presented in a way that sounded true, and then we repeated it to other people in a way that sounded true. And then you'll be shocked to hear that that was a terrible environment to work in. And I started Best Life. And one of the very first things that I did when I started Best Life was I went to a conference. I wanted to learn from people other than my mentor. My exposure to other sort of thoughts at the time had mainly been, you know, positive reinforcement trainers are just trainers who would rather unalive a dog than tell them no. And people with prong collars and shock collars were our competition. And then I go to this conference and I'm like, wait a minute. See, I had my bachelor's degree in psychology and in sociology. And there were all of these different people, and they all seemed to be speaking with sort of this like foundational common understanding that I was familiar with from my bachelor's degree. And I was like, oh my God, dogs are just mammals. Dogs are just mammals. And so I have a lot of empathy for the trainer guilt, for having been in a situation where you were trying to do a good thing. You thought you were helping people, and then you realize that perhaps you have been doing harm through ignorance. What I do not have a lot of empathy for is when people are presented with new information and ways to do better and just won't, because they cannot handle facing the notion that they have been causing harm. And I think that's cowardly. It's my hot take. And I think it denotes a lack of a growth mindset. And I think it's selfish. But when I see people who are like, oh, I now have new information and I realize that I was causing harm, and now I'm going to take action so I can cause less harm and cause more good, I think that's gorgeous. I think it's very, very cool. I think it's a very cool way to be. My dear friend Emily calls it leveling up, and has just like this beautiful take on learning, where instead of learning something new being connected to very aversive experiences, as it is for so many of us, thinking of learning as something that is hopefully going to happen, naturally going to happen. We will find out that we have been wrong about things, and looking at that as an opportunity, and an exciting one at that. I hope that 5 years from now, I'm looking back at what I'm doing now and going, oh gosh, I know so much better now. I'll probably be feeling that way 6 months from now. It's a constant. I'm constantly learning that I could do something better. And thank goodness. It's why when people are like, oh, well, I've been training dogs for 30 years. I want more information. Have you been training dogs exactly the same way for 30 years? Or are you constantly leveling up? And I share this with my clients too. I had a client come to me the other day and say, gosh, you know, I was looking back on some videos of us, you know, from a year ago. And, you know, I'm just looking at like my mechanics, and I'm looking at, you know, all of these different things and cringing. And I was like, look at the way you've leveled up in the last year. Like that's incredible. And sometimes, you know, we're recognizing that like our skills are better. And sometimes we're recognizing that like harm has been caused. And those can be two really different things, but they can both feel bad. And I just wanted to celebrate that. I just wanted to celebrate the leveling up and to empathize with the guilt. But it's important we don't let the guilt be shame. There's nothing inherently wrong with us. We just had bad information. It's what we do with the new information that is important.